time to honor our professors because I was talking to Dr. Henry and Dr. McCaffrey and Dr. York beforehand, and I just want to give everyone to give a hand to them because they've the fact that I'm able to like even stand here today and say anything is fully accredited to Jesus, but Jesus working through my professors. I mean, that means everybody, not just Dr. McCaffrey and Dr. York, because I talked to them beforehand. So thank you very much. I love you all dearly, all of you. And I love you too, John, a lot. John is the best friend I've made in my life, actually. So it's very special for him to be able to come here and say nice things about me. And actually, a funny story about John and I. John and I, like I said, we've been buds since freshman year, as close as can be. In freshman year, we worked out pretty frequently. Actually, semi-regularly. Okay, it was just every now and again. But we would go to the rec workout late at night. We'd go out at about 10 p.m. and get a good pump in, get a good workout in, as you do when you're a freshman in college, trying to avoid that freshman 15. And we'd go to the gym and get feeling good. Then we'd come back to the dorms, Johnson Hall. Respect for anybody who's ever made it through that. So we get back to Johnson Hall, take a shower, and then you're hungry. If you're like me, you're pretty hungry after your workout. You're ready to eat a whole cow or something. And so, you know what John and I would do? We'd go to Taco Bell about midnight. And this happened pretty much every time we go to the gym to work out. And so we go work out, get this pump in, and then go to Taco Bell and just basically ruin it. And so John and I had this tendency to, after you work out, you probably need to eat some protein, eat some chicken, some eggs, or drink a protein shake or something. But no, we were eating some fake meat wrapped in a delicious tortilla of cheese and rice. And for John, medium or mild. John likes mild, so I like fire sauce. But we had this tendency and this bad habit of filling ourselves with things that our body really didn't need. Our body really needed some protein. Our body really needed to repair its muscles, and what we were eating, what we were putting inside of ourselves, wasn't doing that for us. It also reminds me of my dog, or my late dog. If you want to put the picture up there of my adorable dog, who's ready to. Oh, look at her! Look at that! Look at that cute puppy. She actually died a few months ago, but I have amazing memories with her. Nutmeg was my best friend before John was my best friend. As you can see, look at that. Look at how cute she is. Anyway, Nutmeg was an outside dog mostly. It might surprise you because she was a Chihuahua, but she was tough. Like she got into some mischief. And so with her being an outside dog and me loving her so much, it frustrated my dad a lot that I would let her in the house all the time. And when Nutmeg was in the house, we had specific precautions for Nutmeg because she would go get into mischief. And what that usually meant was she was going to go relieve herself somewhere that we couldn't reach. And so usually before Nutmeg came in the house, we close all the doors of the bedrooms, the bathroom, and then Nutmeg wasn't allowed anywhere that you couldn't see her because if you didn't see her, she was doing something wrong. She was eating something, pooping, peeing, whatever. I said poop on stage. You're going to hear it. And so the other precaution was that she wasn't allowed in the laundry room. And in the laundry room is where the litter box was. And so dogs, at least the dogs that I've owned a lot of dogs in my life, more than I probably should have. But dogs just eat. And they seem to eat anything and everything but the food that you put in front of them. The food that, like John and I, we were supposed to eat chicken or eggs or a protein shake. They put food in front of them, and they're not going to eat that. They're going to eat something that's totally bad to them. And Nutmeg would welcome herself into the laundry room, to the litter box, and eat cat poop. And it's disgusting, right? It's pretty gross. And so, like, a couple minutes to an hour later, of course, she would throw up, because dogs aren't supposed to consume the waste of another animal. Which is not what's supposed to happen. And so, like John and I, our freshman year, and still regularly, we still like to go to Taco Bell late at night. Or like Nutmeg with the cat box, or with any kind of thing she'll get herself into to consume that wasn't really fulfilling the need that was inside of her. I think we all do that at a deeper level. I think that a lot of you are guilty of going to Taco Bell late at night too. Raise your hand if you do that. Oh yeah, you got to at MCC. But okay, let's be serious. I think we all have a tendency to fill ourselves with things that aren't really going to satisfy us. We seek security, or we seek peace, or we seek joy. We want these things fulfilled inside of us, and I think we try and cram things in there that don't belong. And I believe, and I think we all can agree, that there's only one thing that can eternally satisfy us. And so like John and I going to Taco Bell over and over and over, or nutmeg going in the litter box over and over and over. We all have this thing that we like to go to over and over and over to give us a deeper sense of security or joy. And so I think there's only one thing that can eternally satisfy us, and today we're going to go to the Gospel of John to discover what that is. And so the Gospel of John is the fourth of the four Gospels, and like the other Gospels, it tells the story of Jesus. And we all know this, and we know that John did a really good job of describing a lot of things that Jesus did, and he did a little bit more than just like telling the stories. He dived into the depths of the story. He dived into the depths of the symbolism and the different things that Jesus used to illustrate God's working and moving in the hearts and minds of people around him. And because of that, John is my favorite gospel to read because it's just like I get into it and I eat it up. And because my awesome girlfriend knew that, she got me this cool alabaster book of the Gospel of John that is really artsy. You should get yourself one. But that's what I'm going to be reading out of today. We're going to be reading the NLT. And we're just going to jump into it. This is earlier on in Jesus' ministry, and it's pretty soon after John the Baptist gets done testifying about him, which is a different John. But we're going to just jump right into John chapter 4, and we'll read from verses 1 through 6. And so Jesus knew the Pharisees had heard that he was baptizing and making more disciples than John. Though Jesus himself didn't baptize them, his disciples did. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. He had to go through Samaria on the way. And eventually he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar, and near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. And Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat wearily beside the well about noontime. And so like I said, this is earlier on in Jesus' ministry, and Jesus is trying to get away from the Pharisees because they're discovering some things about him, and it's too early for him to stop his ministry. So he's traveling from Judea to Galilee, okay? And the text said that he had to go through Samaria. I underline had for a reason. Because, now I've never been to the Holy Lands. I really want to go someday, and I've never been in this area. But what I do know is that from traveling from Judea to Galilee, going through Samaria was not the desired route. That wasn't the route that he probably should have taken. There's many different routes, and even for Jews, especially for Jews, they usually dodge Samaria, because when Jews and Samaritans interact, it's not a pleasant thing. They don't like each other. The Jews definitely see themselves as over Samaritans. It's kind of like when a Chiefs and Raiders fan interact together. They probably do a lot of it. But I say that all to say that it's very clear geographically, it's very clear socially and culturally, because he's a Samaritan, that he should not have taken this route. And so the fact that John makes it a point to say that he had to go this way tells me something else. Tells me that God, or that Jesus moves according to God's will, and not according to the will of what he, like whatever social stigma, whatever cultural stigma, whatever geographical convenience should have been. He moves by the will of God. And so this tells me that Jesus is intentional about going through Samaria and that he's on a mission. And so we've set the scene. John told us where we're at, and he's told us that he's had to go through Samaria, even though geographically, culturally, and socially, he did not have to go through Samaria. So I want to just dive into the narrative and see what the mission Jesus is on in Samaria. So verses 7 through 10 say, soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, please give me a drink. He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. The woman was surprised, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, you are a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? Jesus replied, if you only knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me and I would give you living water. So here Jesus, tired from his trip, sits down and he asks this woman for a drink. Now, like we've already talked about, Jews and Samaritans don't get along. And so the fact that the woman is kind of taken aback by Jesus asking her for water is not surprising. And she probably reacted he probably expected that. Any Jew would have probably expected that from her. Because this violates a social custom. Not sharing things with Samaritans was even a purity issue for Jews. And a Jewish man was supposed to treat a Jewish man was supposed to treat a Samaritan woman as if she was in a constant state of impurity. And so this just, like I said earlier, knocks down so many social and cultural barriers. And the Samaritans and the Jews, they don't get along because the Jews see the Samaritans as a group of people that kind of broke off from God's chosen people and intermarried with pagan nations. And so they're like the half-breeds, if you will, of God's people. And so that's why they don't like them. So they don't treat them other like the mutts of the group. That's how they see them. But he just completely ignores the stigma. Completely ignores this social norm they're supposed to follow, this cultural norm they're supposed to follow. and he presents two challenges to her. He says, if you knew who was speaking to you, and if you asked for this living water, I would give it to you. And so this aspect of living water is pretty regular. Like, this would be pretty normal for her to hear about, because water, is just fundamental for us as human beings, for our anatomy, for our physicality. It hydrates you, it regulates your body temperature, it protects things in you. And I forgot my water bottle up here, but it clears your throat when you get dry throat, and luckily that's not happening to me today. But water is just fundamental to us. We actually can't go past 5 days without drinking water of some sort. We can go many, many weeks, well, not many, but we can go weeks without eating food. But without water, we're done. So physically, it's just fundamental to us as human beings. But it's also fundamental to us as human beings, as people of God. So often, especially in the Gospel of John, but also in the Old Testament, is water referred to as a means for God to make himself known to his people, for God to provide salvation for his people. And so in Isaiah 12:13, it says that God shows that people will drink water with joy from the wells of salvation. Or in Psalm 42:1, we see the psalmist crying out his thirst for the living God. And so water and God are equated so much, and this woman would have been familiar with that. We'll see later that this woman knows at least something about worshiping God or about God. And so this language of water wouldn't be unfamiliar to her. But as happens often with Jesus, the woman misunderstands the nature of the challenges. It takes them very literally. It takes them on a physical sense. So verses 11-15, they say, "But sir, you don't even have a rope or a bucket," she said, "and this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed?" Jesus replied, "Anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again, but those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life." "Please, sir," said the woman, "give me this water, then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water." So again, like I said, the woman misunderstands the nature of the question. It definitely pushes back on Jesus here, because Jesus is claiming that he knows something, but he doesn't have a bucket to get the water. She's questioning his validity. Like, okay, you're going to give me this living water, but you can't even get water from this well that is supposedly worse than this water, or that's supposedly better than this water from the well. So she questions his validity, and she also questions his validity on the term that she brings up Jacob, and the Samaritans see themselves as descendants of Jacob. Okay, and so Jacob's well was here, dug by Jacob. He dug it up for his family and his livestock, and for the people that are going to be there to drink from this well for years and years. And so she's like, "So you think you know this land better? You think you're wiser than this guy who has established this water well here for our community that's lasted for ages? You tell me that your water is better than this?" So she questions his validity here, which is, it's valid. Some random guy at noon at the well. She knows that being at the well at noon isn't good. Even today, in cultures today, going to the well at noon, it doesn't happen. You wake up, you want to drink water, right? And so at the beginning of the day, people go to the well at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m., so that they have water for their day. They don't go in the middle of the day when they're already thirsty. And so many reasons this woman is questioning this guy's validity, but also the woman's there at the well at noon. So she's got a reason to be there where no one else is there. So keep that in mind. But then they continue to talk, and she's convinced that, okay, if there's some kind of chance that I could have this living water, this spring bubbling up inside of me that will never cause me to never have to come to this well again, this well that she's coming back to over and over and over, then yeah, I want that water. Like imagine for yourselves, imagine never having to drink water again, but get all the benefits from having it. Not that water is that much of an inconvenience, but just imagine taking that out of your lap. That's like at least 30 seconds a day, right? Hopefully more. But she wants it, wouldn't you? I wrote in here, "Oh, to have your thirst quenched forever." That's not how I talk, but seriously, oh, to have your thirst quenched forever. But remember that Jesus presented a two-part challenge. "Go and get your husband," Jesus told her. "I don't have a husband," the woman replied. Jesus said, "You're right. You don't have a husband. For you've had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You've certainly spoken the truth." Just imagine imagine being like a Sparrow, Blue Stem, or whatever your favorite coffee shop is, and you're hearing someone behind you sharing the gospel with somebody like Stumo or something. They're sharing Romans Road, or they're doing the 3 circles. Shout out to my UCC peeps. And they share the gospel with them, and it's very clear this person wants Jesus. They want this source of eternal life that is being presented to them. And then the person goes, all right, so show me your search history. Or, all right, tell me what you did with that girl last weekend, or that guy last weekend. Oh, what bar were you partying at last weekend? Just imagine like the reaction that you would have, but the person that is receiving the gospel would have in that moment, like, oh, whoa, like, shiver you up, don't like that. But Jesus brings to the surface what the woman has been filling herself with. Jesus brings to the surface, he meets her where she's at, and probably the thing that in her heart is hurting the most. You know, she's been trying to fulfill this void for so many times with 5 different husbands. It'd be generous to assume that she's a 5 times widow, but I don't think that's the case. Especially with her being at the well and knowing why you see her. And so Jesus meets her where she's at, starting to reveal to her who he is ultimately. And so the woman recognizes that Jesus is pretty special. Sir, the woman said, you must be a prophet. So tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it is here at Mount Gerizim, where our ancestors worshiped? Jesus replied, believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him. For salvation comes through the Jews. But the time is coming, indeed it's here now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. The woman said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus told her, I am the Messiah. And so Jesus presents something to her. Jesus brings up the biggest hurt in her life, probably. The thing that she's been trying to fill this void with. She's had this void for so long. She's had this void for so long. She's had 5 husbands, so she's had time to go and find somebody else to try and fill this void with, another relationship to fill this void with. And Jesus confronts her with it. And then she comes back, recognizing that he's pretty special, that she could probably engage in a conversation with him about theology or about doctrine or whatever. And so instead of dealing with what God is trying to bring up to her, what Jesus is trying to bring up to her, what Jesus is trying to deal with at her heart, she throws back a theological question. She throws back some validity because they have this disagreement about where they should worship. She throws something back at them so that she doesn't have to deal with the actual thing that she needs to deal with. I think we do the same thing so often. I'm in a room full of Bible college students, some pastors, some youth pastors, some teachers, some missions ministers, some administration here at the school. In some way, we all probably know something. This woman knows something. She at least knows something about God or something about worship. And so instead of letting God address what really is her core hurt at her heart, she throws something back in order to invalidate what he's saying. Oh yeah, you're right. I am doing something wrong in my life, but I really think you exegete that passage. Sounds like a Bible college thing. But Jesus, like he does, totally reframes the question. He tells her that the location where she worships isn't even going to matter. And that what matters is how she worships in spirit and in truth. And this makes things blatantly clear to her that, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. And he's pretty special. Jesus does not just want to give her a drink of water. He's the most important person she will ever meet, and she's coming to a realization of that. So it's all wrapped up with Jesus making it abundantly clear who he is, which, like the challenges we presented at the beginning, was if you knew who was talking to you. So he discloses the clue to that. And so what does this mean for all of us? Like, how do we apply this to our lives? I think so often I've looked at this passage and been like, actually, when I first wrote the sermon, I wrote it as an evangelism sermon. I wrote it to call sinners, and we're all sinners still, but I think that we've all given our life to Christ. If there isn't someone here that's given their life to Christ, I hope that he's pulling at your heartstrings, and you're in a great room to talk to somebody who might be able to walk you through that process. But like I said in the beginning, God doesn't do coincidences. Just like his journey, he had to go through Samaria. Not socially, not culturally, not geographically, but because it was according to God's will. I think that God still acts according to his will today. He's not just wandering around aimlessly or letting us wander around aimlessly and just kind of doing things here and there like a puppet master. But he's doing things. And he created this world for him, and he created it good. I think we all agree about that. But I think we can all also agree that our selfishness, our human selfishness, kind of ruined that. We kind of took that and kind of stomped it into the ground. Our selfishness because we wanted to be like God. And our sin, we kind of tainted the earth. Tainted the whole world. It affected everything. The earth, global warming, people, broken relationships, broken systems, death, Mondays, anything bad. It's all a root of human selfishness. It all comes from sin. And because of this brokenness, we have this void in us that we continue to try to stuff with things that it cannot be stuffed with things that just are not eternal, that will not last forever, that will not continue to be a spring bubbling inside us, a spring of eternal life. Now, what is it for you? What's your well? What's your litter box? What's your Taco Bell? But what is it? What do you keep going to over and over and over? Whatever it is, you know that it won't be eternal. You have to keep going back to that well over and over and over, and it will never fully satisfy. But God has a plan. He's been working that plan for a while now to bring his creation back to him. He's doing good things, and his mission that he's on climaxes of Jesus, just like in this story, Jesus proclaiming himself as the Messiah is the climax. This climax is of Jesus, and Jesus wants to walk in relationship with us, and he wants to fulfill us, and he wants us to live our life with and for him. But like I said, most of us in this room have made that decision. Most of us in this room know something about God. We know something about worship. At least we think we do. Bible college students, teachers, professors, pastors, we know something, don't we? But we still try and fill that void. We still go to that well, whatever that is for you, over and over and over to try and stuff that void. Through Jesus only do we fill that void. We no longer thirst. We live eternally with eternal satisfaction. But you got to acknowledge who he is and let him be who he is and let him do what he does. If you're hearing this today, and you know this is you, you know that you have that thing that you keep going to over and over and over. This is a reminder that your only eternal satisfaction is Jesus. My favorite quote from St. Augustine, or St. Augustine, I don't really know how to say it, is that our hearts are restless until they find rest in you. Okay, so let's come and find rest in the only one that provides it. So stand up with me. I'm going to pray for you. And someone wise once told me that if you see something in ministry that works, use it. Okay? So I did not come up with this. Matt Chandler is a really smart guy. Okay? But I want you to put your hands in front of you like this. All right? Like you're drinking water. All right? And in your hands in front of you, I'm going to pray for you, but in your hands in front of you, I want you to picture whatever that thing is. It might be a relationship. It might be Taco Bell. It might be a bad habit. I don't know what it is for you. But I want you to picture that in your hands in front of you. I want you to bow your heads in prayer. We'll pray for you. Father God, you are good. And God, we thank you for Jesus, and we thank you that we gain eternal satisfaction and eternal life continuing to relationship with you. And Father, we're tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of going to that thing over and over and over. So Father, I want to pray for my friends right now that you remove that thing from my life, that you give them the steps, that you give us the steps, give me the steps to remove that well from our lives, to remove that litter box from our lives. And God, teach us how to fulfill that void with you. Teach us how to come to you over and over and over when we feel the need to seek joy, or to seek security, or to seek peace. God, take that away from us. God, I pray that you guide all our steps in here, that whatever it is that we need to do to remove this sin from our life, remove this bad habit
opportunity to be